weren't the public health benefits of vaccination overstated?
Oh, definitely, Alan. There is no question about this. This was about the large pharmaceutical companies making money, in my opinion. There is no... look, I went to work. I'm not an anti-vaxxer, and I don't like that word now. But our kids are all vaccinated. We were vaccinated for everything that was possible at work.
Yes, just to interrupt you, so am I. Just to interrupt you, so am I. I'm not an anti-vaxxer either. But these were experimental vaccines, and we're never given any information. And to this day, sorry to interrupt you there, John, but just to make the point to our viewers, to this day, remember at the beginning they said, go and be tested if you've got this virus. Be tested, shove up your nose, all that sort of stuff. Be tested, and it's free. Now, nothing is free. So when you get tested, then they said, oh, we've got the vaccination. So you get the first, it's free. No, it's not free. Then you get the second one, it's free. No, it's not free. Then get the booster, Now, pharmaceutical companies, Big Pharma, had the government by the throat. Over and over again, I asked the Morrison government, how much is this costing us? We were never told, and to this day, we've never been told. And we won't be told by the Albanese government because they were singing off the same song sheet. So just coming back to you, the vaccination being overstated, so you lost your job, your wife lost your job, when you weren't at risk, nor were you at risk of putting someone else at risk.
And that's where it was so inconsistent, Alan. I mean, the government decreed that paramedics had to be vaccinated, nurses had to be vaccinated, but at the time, pharmacists didn't have to be vaccinated, GPs didn't have to be vaccinated. Now, I mean, the other thing is too that it was like we were at war. Every day there was press conferences, there was military, there was lockdowns, there was just a complete overreaction, bureaucratic overreach into what was going on. I mean, I would have thought that if we're in a pandemic and I walked up the street, you'd be seeing people drop dead. But it just wasn't occurring. I mean, this was nothing different to what I was seeing every day in nursing homes, people dying when they're vulnerable from the flu. There was no flu recorded in those 2 years. I mean, this whole thing has just been a COVID fraud. That's how I determine it. But look at it from this point of view, Alan. I mean, let me point this out to the viewers. The Kerry Chant made the observation that nobody, she wasn't prepared to accept the risk.
Sorry, just to interrupt you there, John, just to interrupt you. Kerry Chant was the Chief Medical Officer in New South Wales. We, of course, had them all over the state, and politicians just followed those edicts like sheep. You go on, John.
And she made the observation that she wasn't prepared to accept the risk of me being at work and essentially putting people at harm. Now, I've got real concerns about the way this has been handled, because what they did was they allowed people with a medical exemption to continue working unvaccinated. Now, from my point of view, if you have a risk, you must deal with that risk, Alan. I'll put it in terms that people might understand. Now, if I was running an asbestos removal company and I went to the boss and I said, Bill, listen, I can't wear the protective clothing today because I've got a medical certificate, and the medical certificate says that I get an itchy face from the mask that we have to wear when I remove the asbestos. Do you think that employer is going to allow that person to remove the asbestos without the mask in lieu of a medical certificate? No. So, I mean, the whole thing was so
there would be no. What you're saying is there would be no exemptions because of the risk.
None.
But with coronavirus, people could get an exemption when, in fact, the argument was, everyone's at risk. So there were some who got an exemption, and they were working alongside. And they saw others who actually got sacked for not being vaccinated.
And they still are, Alan. So people are still working in the health system, only having had 2 vaccinations, likely 2 years ago. And I'll give you an example. There's a paramedic at Batlow who continues to work with 2 vaccines. Now, this is going on all over the state. There's a conscientious objection policy now that New South Wales Health have introduced, and this is for staff that don't want to have the 3rd dose, the booster, because they know that they're seeing things that they don't want to get out in the system, and they know that if these people object to having the booster, that they'll end up with less staff. So to give an example of what they've done, the chief executive, Dr. Dominic Morgan, in this case has said, okay, you can keep working at Batlow Ambulance Station as a paramedic, but you can't eat your lunch with the vaccinated staff. You must wear a mask at all times, and you can't be promoted or transferred until such time as you have the booster. How is this stuff being allowed to continue on in this state? I mean, This Dr. Dominic Morgan, Kerry Chant, all these bureaucrats, they should be hauled before some commission. They should be asked to justify what they've done. This is unbelievable, Alan.